And welcome back to This Week in San Diego Tech News with Neal and Fred. Hey, Fred, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hey Neil, doing pretty good. Good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I feel like we get in a weekly rhythm, and then sometimes it takes 2 weeks plus to get on this. So always a pleasure to be with you here. Ocean's looking good behind you. It's been some great weather days the last few days here in San Diego, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's feeling like summer already, and I'm seeing the tweets on Twitter about how San Diego is one of the best cities in all of the US. And I keep continuing to see it. I retweeted it on my feed. San Diego secretly might be the best city in the United States. And it's a secret that is no longer the secret. It's great weather, it's feeling like summer already. And yeah, it's great. It's great to be here.
It is, but this is also that some people call the fake spring because we're rapidly approaching May gray, June gloom. So get it out of your system for the next 10 days and then wait for the complaints from everyone being like, I thought Santa was amazing. I'm coming to visit in May. And, we know it is. It's heaven on earth. Everyone I run into here pretty much on a daily basis still continue to meet brand new people who I don't even know. Like I just actually got together with Matt from Google, the site lead of Google, who I think you put me in touch with, Matt, who moved here during COVID and, really is disconnected from the San Diego tech ecosystem, has a really deep bench of talent at the Google office. And I know he listened because he gave us some feedback and comments on the pod. So Matt, I hope we're doing you proud this episode here. But it was a pleasure to sit down and meet with him. And he wants to get the community further connected with Google, which has a lot of health tech, chip engineers, and obviously a ton of software engineers. The Fitbit team is in there, the people who did R&D engineering for Fitbit. So there's a lot of wearable talent over at Google, which I'm very excited to pull together and maybe do a future event together around that. So keep your eyes out for maybe a med tech, device tech. We need a better name for all of that. Wearable tech, health tech stuff. But man, we have such a density of that, which we're going to talk about some news here coming up. So why don't we dive right into our news here? We got a full docket, especially from 2 weeks, no pod.
Startups get the party, startups get the party started. Startups get the party, startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we
I'm going to do some debriefs of some recent events we just did. I'm actually going to start with the music tech founders at the San Diego Symphony. So there's a CTO in town, Steve Bjork, who had a great exit with MindTouch and longtime giver of the community, very active in 7 CTOs and a lot of code academies, like Origin and Mike Roberts' Code Academy as well, creating coding careers. Anyway, Steve has gotten very involved with San Diego Symphony, and he's pulled me he invited me to a few events. And every time I went to events, it was all the tech world was just the life science world within the Symphony. And it's kind of like that everywhere within the arts in San Diego, which makes sense. We have some ton of life science. You go to the Playhouse and they do innovation night. It's all life science. You go to other events. And so Steve Bjork challenged me. He's like, let's get the software, hardware, tech world to show up. And so we've worked on that a little bit. And so I asked if we could do a behind the scenes tour of their brand new Jacobs Music Hall. Did like $150 million remodel, 5-year remodel. So can I bring a bunch of music tech founders to see that? And even then, I was talking to Eric Otterson about it. He's like, do we have any? I was like, all right, challenge accepted. We built a list of 10, 15, 20 music tech founders, and then sprinkled in a bit more other related tech, maybe not purely like audio, but people have built stuff, and especially kind of real estate tech or construction tech. And so we put together a really strong 30-person group last week to tour, have an amazing tour by the San Diego Symphony's staff. Gave us a history lesson. At one point, we're in the bowels of Jacobs Music Center, and they're like, we are underneath 8th Avenue right now. I was like, whoa, I had no idea that there's this, the shell of this building has existed for 100+ years. And then they built Symphony Towers around it like years later. So anyway, amazing to bring our group out. And then just last night, a subset of that group went to Discovery Night, which is this innovation-focused night. And it was the first time I feel like the tech software community showed up in one of these galas. in the arts world. And an amazing jazz-filled Mardi Gras night, super fun. We had Aaron Parks from Equip and partner join us, and Mike Roberts actually came. We had Ulf, formerly from Qualcomm and big new fund member and partner, come out, and I'm sure I'm not calling my whole group out, but anyway, it was really good cut of the community that on our end that came out. So love that. Just loved that opportunity. We kind of did it under the Interlock brand, and so Interlock sponsored that night. But we realized people want tours. People want to go out and see spaces, and so we're going to be doing not just arts, but sciences and other tours under the Interlock brand coming out. I think we've said our next spot is going to be the D3 fusion reactor. Do a private behind the scenes. So we've been offered that since we had some of the team at TechCon SoCal speaking. So that was super fun. Anyway, you been out to Jacobs Music Hall yet, Fred? You seen something there?
I was really hoping to come out for that event. I think it's great that you continue to bring curated founders together. It's deeply needed. And as you mentioned, the Symphony is being supported financially by the Jacobs family, who is a co-founder of Qualcomm. And now that we have the Brady Shell, we have a few different entertainment venues. I think, how do we bridge the gap between the music scene here, but also the entrepreneurship scene here? That's where the magic will happen. And I think we're still in the early innings of that. But I haven't got a chance to check it out. So maybe the next one, I'll be there.
All right. I got you for sure. And now let me speak to that a little bit more further. Last night, they honored Mick Farrell, the CEO and chairman of ResMed, who has been a longtime board member of the San Diego Symphony as his wife, and a longtime trumpeter too. And he gave an awesome talk. Guy, if you get a chance to meet or hear him talk, he is hilarious. But it's a public. He speaks to the public on. I think he said he's about to be on his 50th quarterly earnings call coming up here. So he does this a lot. Like he is on, which is awesome. And he gave a huge nod to Irwin Jacobs, who was the honoree 2 years ago. So there's only been two other honorees. Irwin Jacobs, then in the year after last year was Mr. Royston, one of the co-founders of Hybridtech, which was also kind of the grandfather company of the life sciences team of San Diego. And so he said, I'm on the shoulders of giants. And literally, these are 90-year-olds, literally still supporting the sciences, the arts, the humanities, university academics. And he said, it's our turn. It's time. And he's like, we no longer can just wait and expect that the Jacobs will just continue to do the thing, even though they will selflessly. And I really, that hit me. That's what I feel like we have been trying to do, is show up in our community as leaders, not just at our companies, but in our community. And so I really appreciated hearing Mick's remarks about that. Hopefully get to meet with him and just share some notes and see how can we keep that momentum going. So by the way, ResMed, huge company here in town. I think it's the third largest by market cap, $40-50 billion market cap company doing $5 billion plus in revenue. Don't sleep on them. They have a goal. What they say, they have 150 million customers, and their goal in 5 years is to have 500 million customers, all helping sleep apnea, which 1 in 4 people in the world have. So it was cool. It was very cool to get direct from the leader of one of the most prominent med device companies in San Diego here, showing up for science, arts, and culture and innovation. So super cool to see. On the flip side, I kind of accidentally started, I guess, an incubator this week. Tim Ryan, who and I launched Startup 101 this last week, which we put out a little test bubble of an event. We didn't announce it publicly, we just put it on Startup Beach. And we had 30 people sign up to understand what is a startup. We took them through a formatting of what are the different kinds of growth mentalities of startups: car, plane, or rocket ship. And we use that as a framework to talk about how 99.9% of all businesses are cars, and they will always be cars. They get moving and they continue moving, and they're going to move at that pace, and they make the world go round. But we talked about the difference of quickly getting up to a high altitude and then flattening out. As many companies like that. Or there's takes forever to get to the launch pad, but 10 years later, in 8 minutes, boom, you're gone, never to be seen again, right? So we talked a lot about that, and so we curated the room. We actually had in applications, and we only accepted 50% of the people who applied. more so just understand, to make sure we're having a cohesive conversation about the same thing. We want to make sure these are people who are serious about what they're interested in building, already taking steps to build. And so, kind of made a cohort out of this. The original idea was do a 101 and gather once a month and share notes about what we're building, see progress, and deliver some more content. And then bring in mentors for mentor hours right after. And everyone in the room was like, can we meet next week? Can we meet the week after? People were begging for more, which is awesome. So Startup 101 really is going to be just one of the talks in this code name we're calling. We don't really even have a name or brand yet. Like, that's the least important, to be honest. Like, the most important is help founders and make sure we're getting the right founders, the right things that they need. And so whether you call it San Diego Founders Funnel, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, Neal and Tim Ryan. So Tim Ryan was one of the co-founders of San Diego Startup Week and Startup San Diego. Him and I have been long collaborators of just popping up stuff in the community that we iterate, scale, and grow. So anyway, keep an eye out for that. We're going to be restarting this every 3 months is our goal, to do a new cohort of founders together. You hear about that? How did you hear about this, actually, Fred?
I would just give a shout out to your partner, Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan is a OG in San Diego. He was in the early days of the formation of Startup San Diego. He has helped a lot of different startups in the community. I believe he was a co-founder of Lab Fellows. He was an early investor in Go Apron. And I think there is an opportunity to just do things in San Diego, and we need people who have done that, who've been there, done that, and can kind of give back and help the next generation. So I'm just happy to see it. But me being a reporter in town and having my finger on the pulse, I'm always looking at new things popping up. And I think Startup Beach platform has allowed us to create events, and it's been able to meet new people in the community. And I feel like we're just in the early days of all this innovation, community building in San Diego.
Yeah, huge shout out to Hussein Yufafi from Startup Beach, who really built an amazing set of tools to test and try community building at super fast speed. The day after Startup 101, we did our monthly Founder Build Day, this was the first time Tim and I separated and ran 2 different locations at the same time. I ran mine North County, one at the Blue Cata Club, which I'm a brand new member of. And Tim ran his at Answer. So we were running simultaneously, and on the spot, Jordan Dominguez showed up, and he has raised his hand to do it next month in May in East Village downtown. So next month we'll have 3 locations going, and that's all from testing and trying and people seeing things on Startup Beach. So super, super pumped for that. Anyway, we got some other news. There's so much other news going on. Let's talk about the news that other founders are doing. They're building companies, good companies, and getting funding because of that. Let's start with the VC funding news that you broke this week with one of San Diego's newest venture capital firms in town.
Yeah, so we kicked off the year mentioning there was a few investors who were raising funds, and we'll be announcing them soon. And this is one of them. Symphony Capital just raised $13.5 million for their first fund. What's interesting about this story is one of the co-general partners is Sydney Page Thomas. Came from Precursor Ventures, which is Silicon Valley-based venture firm with over 200 million assets under management. She helped build that venture firm from zero to what it is today, and really return to San Diego to go back to a city that she grew up in. Her family was there, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to start this VC fund and do it in San Diego, focused on healthcare, digital healthcare, as well as fintech, which is 2 really important verticals." And she told us that she worked really hard to raise this fund, and she had her sights on a bigger number. But at the end of the day, she landed exactly where they needed to be. And she just advocated that venture success shouldn't just be about measuring big checks and $1 billion exits. It's about kind of developing and delivering meaningful impact in the communities and serve drive greater returns for the LPs who back us. And so one of the LPs is actually Bank of America, among others. And we also shared some great, statistics on just women investors in the U.S., which is a very small number, but it's growing. And I think it really resonated with people. I think 160 people reacted to it on LinkedIn, and I got a few messages following that release. And it's just great to showcase, more capital allocators coming to San Diego, and it's continuing to happen year after year.
100%. I love it. Congrats to the Symphonic team. I love seeing Bank of America involved. I have talked to their team, and they have a really great fund helping emerging managers, managers of diverse backgrounds, really get their legs underneath them. And I know that people locally in San Diego have actually some involvement in that as well too. So I love seeing money get put to work, especially locally. And especially if there's some LP money locally too, the returns really will stay local for when the exits happen, which will just funnel right back into more funneling into the next future cohort of founders. So it's just on us to make sure that local VCs see local deals, which isn't always a given, by the way, which we know, right, Fred? A lot of VCs here doesn't mean they're investing locally, and vice versa. So I think we've got some events to help that coming up in the future here. Like a GP LP family office event we are working on, and just great to see more capital coming to town, and more personally for me, more other local investors to collaborate on together and co-invest in some companies. Let's talk about a few bigger or later stage raises here. I think we got a Series A fundraise by a North County based company called Bliss AI. Bliss is an aesthetic focused AR software company, if you will. Like, they allow you, if you are looking at doing some elective surgery, kind of like facials, breast augmentations, all of that world, and enable both patient and doctor to do kind of some upfront work around that, and post work as well too, around healing and other things around that. They raised a new round of funding here. I know it's kind of new for you to see, but what's your take here, Fred, for Bliss AI's funding?
Yeah, we were talking just before the podcast about how the press release included that this was a New York-based company. We did some homework, and we found out that one of the co-founders is actually a longtime San Diego entrepreneur based in North County. And I think the theme that I took from this is kind of a consumer tech startup. They say they leverage AI. I think, it is a tough environment for startups, but the companies that are getting funded tend to have that AI component. It's continuing to be, kind of growing. We have some other venture capital fundings news happening in San Diego. One of them was a company called BioLink. They raised $90 million in funding. So, even though the environment has been a little bit challenging, we are seeing companies being funded. Neal, I don't know if you have any perspective on BioLink, but I think we talked about them in a previous episode.
BioLink is, we go way back. Personally, me and the BioLink founding team under a different company named Electrozyme, we're in EvoNexus. Same summer we got in together, summer 2013, we go way back, aging me a little bit. But this was actually what's super cool about this team. Josh Windmiller, Jared Tangy, who were both PhD students at two different UCSD labs. Josh Windmiller, one of the leading postdocs, I believe, in the Joe Wang wearable sensors lab, which is one of the most predominant sensors lab, I think, around in the nanotechnology department within Jacobs School of Engineering. Together, they kind of spun out of UCSD, started Electrozyme, which originally the promise was to be able to detect your glucose levels from sweat. That expanded over time, which became kind of the rebrand into BioLink, which was detecting a lot of things using microneedles and other, cutting edge sensor technology. They have raised hundreds of millions in funding to date. I think we may have found, an early release of them raising actually 100 million, but 90 million is showing up in SEC documents that, you and I just happen to capture that stuff. There actually is a paywall link out there. You can go and read a little bit about a funding round coming together soon here, but looks like, raising another close to 100 million in funding. It might be Series D, E, or F stage. Couldn't actually nail down when it's one, but the whole promise is, a whole nother level of glucose and other really health tech focused readings, which were desperately needed. We have such a density of talent and companies, both academic and huge bench from Dexcom and Abbott, who are doing glucose sensor reading. And then on the other side, the insulin delivery, the tandems and insulins who depend on these sensors to dole out the right kind of insulin to patients, plus so many other, non-diabetes focused. It's just so cool to see the density of technology and talent right here in our backyard in San Diego. So kudos to the BioLink team. Keep it up. Keep building a great team and product, and we'll do as we do here in San Diego, change the world. So very cool to see. We'll report more as we see more news around this as well too. Let's talk about kind of the macro funding environment. You put out a great article that really is just trying to show like what is happening related to these changing times. Your article was hyper focused, I think, on the NIH cuts, but there's actually even a bigger thing of just from tariffs and others. But let's talk about, because of our life science community and how much NIH funding comes to our nearly 50 research institutions in San Diego. Like, what does that mean? Take us to what you're seeing when you're hearing and talking to people.
Yeah. So, I mean, a few people asked me, hey, Fred, do you plan on writing about the NIH funding news? And I took a little while to kind of think about this, but after like the 6th or 7th request, I was like, I need to put something out. And, I would say I focused mostly on UCSD, as I talked to a few people there, and I heard that there was 150 million in NIH funding that was cut from UCSD. And then there's additional 500,000, 500 million going grant funding getting pulled from universities at UCSD, including 2 of their projects they're working on. They have 2 big projects coming online, and they have to kind of pause construction. And so UCSD is being hammered, but also too, it's like a lot of these early stage companies, they receive NIH funding before they raise VC funding. And so now that has completely paused. I talked to one company, and they were like, I have 5 million in NIH funding, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to receive that total, because they receive the money when it's based off certain milestones that are met. And even one of the people that work in the FDA that approves their process, he was no longer going to be working in that federal agency. There's a lot of change happening, right now in the world. And, I actually went to a conference and heard the Biocom CEO kind of talk about what's going on in the state of the market. And he said, hey, we're still waiting for the dust to settle. And, make no mistake, the NIH funding is a big deal. Roughly 47 billion goes into research and development for engineering and science, and that fuels everything that the biotech industry does. So this is a big deal, and I feel like every week there's new news coming out, and we're trying our best to provide the information for folks to make better decisions and navigate this tough time.
Yeah, you said it is a tough time, and it's everywhere. It's really actually not just NIH. NIH happens to affect our biotech scene, which is about 5 to 8% of our GDP, but 25% of our GDP is actually military related, which is also being affected by DoD, whether that's SBIRs or OTAs or some other form of funding that comes from another 3-letter agency in the government space. And we haven't even gotten to the tariffs part, which is really disrupting and disruptive to all of our consumer and any company doing hardware or materials space, which is a huge part of San Diego. Also on the chip side, which so far has been, apparently not part of tariffs to date, but who knows? We could have, new tweet in the last minute could have changed everything. So yeah, when I hear, like you said, Tim Scott say dust to settle, man, I don't know which dust we're talking about. Every 5 minutes, there's another disruption, which is just so distracting to do anything. Like, I don't know how you as a business make 5-year plans, 10-year plans when you can't even make a 5-minute plan to know if you're alive. So shout out to the founders and the teams who are just trying to stay focused and do the thing right in front of them, build a good business, which is really what we're all trying to do, because yeah, it is chaotic out there. And all we can do is just help people see the news and then point them to other resources to try to diversify if they're getting affected by this, whether it's new materials, new suppliers. Talk to another founder who has already weathered some storm similarly. That's all we can do as an ecosystem in that regard, is just help and offer connections to people who are more relevant to have gone through something relevant like this. So keep fighting the good fight, all of you, and let's help each other out even more so now, so that we continue to have the ecosystem that we know that we're building. there's a whole other set of news around, I would say, kind of real estate news. This is more just kind of affecting, I would say, companies building out their spaces, planting roots or expanding here or elsewhere that I think it'd be worth you to talk about as well too. On some of the larger biotech side, Pfizer, long time, San Diego has had a presence here, whether it's because they've bought a company, then rolled them into, their area. But I think they are consolidating some other space and moving everything to the brand new breakthrough properties, Torrey View. You have some more news on this, Fred?
Yeah, this is something that was in a long time making. So Pfizer announced last year that they were moving to Breakthrough Properties new development right in the heart of Torrey, kind of near Torrey Pines, Carmel Valley, and yeah, they're consolidating into that one space. In life sciences, we're seeing a lot of different shifts. We've seen two local companies, Quapex, big biopharma. They're opening a new R&D facility. Gem Pharmatech is expanding with a preclinical research facility. And you also had some other news that just came up on my radar about Novartis. They're planning on building a 1.1 billion research hub in San Diego, part of their 23 billion, plan that they announced last month. So it's huge. There's a lot going on the life sciences side. I mean, there's obviously layoffs and funding cuts, but there's also companies, particularly these more established late stage, bigger pharma companies that are kind of doubling down and consolidating their spaces. So maybe they had 3 different campuses. Now they just consolidate to one. And then we're seeing, R&D facilities continue to grow locally because of our strong talent pool. So, some of these big companies are starting to invest in just research and development centers across San Diego, which bodes well for the region. But I do wonder about the smaller startups who might be downsizing because the funding has also dried up.
Yeah, totally. It's a bummer to see. Luckily, there are a few other startup resources that are expanding, like Evo Nexus is officially expanding and rolling out brand new space in UTC area in May that hopefully will go from housing, I think, 5 companies. They claim to over 20, which will be heavily med device and life science hardware related, which is awesome. So hopefully we can point people in that direction. I've heard BioLab is also expanding their space. And I think JLabs is also working on an expansion. So I hope we can, share the news around that and make sure we're getting the earliest of stage companies in the right place to give them the right resources there. There's also a big shakeup just in general of commercial real estate, right? Like from downtown getting a lot quieter from COVID days to, UTC just being craziness of every company wanting to be there from Apple on down. I think you've got some news to kind of share on the downtown commercial scene a little bit.
Yeah, so we saw Prebys Foundation. They acquired a downtown building for about 40 million. The seller was the Irvine Company. They purchased the asset back in 2004 for 148 million. So they sold it at a loss. It was pretty interesting. Jason Lee, who is the CEO of Nora Advisors, put a tweet out. He said he personally believes that this is a great acquisition and that they were in the market for an office in San Diego, and they ended up calling that same building. And they were surprised to hear that building is 92% leased. So, he posed a question, why do you think Irvine Company sold it for so low? This is one of many companies, buildings that Irvine Company has sold in San Diego. I don't know if they're pulling out altogether, but nonetheless, this is a smart acquisition by the Prebys Foundation, and they now have a VC arm. So I wonder if they're going to be sharing space in there. And, there's momentum building in downtown as well, even though it has its challenges.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hold on. Shout out to Jason Lee, who I went to undergrad with. Super cool to see his big pivot and big brand in real estate. So Jason, thanks for the good work you do on Twitter there. But this building is the home of the Downtown Partnership on the ground floor, which has a great space that welcomes the community. We've done a ton of events there. And it's known as the Wells Fargo building, I think. And a bunch of tech companies have come and gone in that building for sure. So, it's one of those jewels on B Street. Irvine Company pretty much used to own every building on Broadway and B Street and has been slowly selling off one by one, which is crazy, from Symphony Towers to one on Broadway and now this one. It's interesting to see them, a company who can weather any storm for decades from a balance sheet perspective, just getting out of the downtown San Diego market. So hopefully that is someone else's to gain, and downtown will rise again as a tech hub because of it. Like Previs, like you said, who is making hyperlocal investments with a very economic development focus. So we'll keep our sharing those news for sure. Why don't we jump over to some San Diego sports news to round out the day? We've got some great sports news going on, whether it's the Padres, Wave, and San Diego Sea having great starts to all three of their seasons so far. And then obviously we all were hyped up a month ago around the basketball of our universities, but man, it's been noisy and busy with the March Madness over all the transfers happening. Like San Diego State has gobbled up some transfers, also lost some, but then gained a whole ton of new players for the men's basketball team. You've been watching that at all, Fred?
Yeah, I have been watching it. I mean, sports in San Diego has taken off, and I think it started with SDSU and what they've done in that sports program. But yeah, we had some news that popped up on our radar. The San Diego State University team, they're getting their own Air Jordan shoes, Jordan 4s, and they're called PEs. And these are going to be a limited edition shoes for the Aztecs. I think they're going to be making 50 pairs. Man, I wish I could get my hands on these. What's your take on this?
Same. I've been searching for them too. I totally want to rock them. They look really nice and clean, just like all black. San Diego State, a little bit of aesthetic there for San Diego State. I don't think this is actually their very first shoe ever with the Air Jordan brand, but this is a brand new one that's coming out, kind of a high top. So yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes here if anyone gets their hands on some. Share the love here so that we can all rock them here for sure. There's some events coming up, including just last week, 1 Million Cups is back, first time in probably 4 or 5 years. It's been going since 2013 in San Diego. It is a global event that happens every Wednesday, some either at 8 or 9 a.m. depending upon the city, where two founders they don't pitch, they give an overview of their company, 6 minutes, and then they got 20 minutes of feedback, mentorship, and Q&A from the audience. So it's a really good event. I went to this one, the kickoff of it at Answer Innovation over in Convoy. By the way, the Answer Innovation Convoy was the first office of GoFundMe. So it's really cool. They had the whole building way back in the day, and now it's got a whole new space as a co-working space and community space, which is really cool to see new startups setting up shop there. So yeah, every Wednesday, 8 a.m., you can come out and meet two new startups showcasing. We had two very different startups at last week's, one more of a marketing agency, and then another one that was a wearable sensors. I got the card right here in front of me, and right here, Circuit Care, UCSD students doing a really cool heart sensor that I look forward to following up on. So come out every Wednesday, 8 a.m. For 1 Million Cups. Interlock Capital, we're doing our Portfolio Founder LP Day this week as well, which we'll be gathering all of our LPs and all of our portfolio companies to really do a hardcore roundtable where I'm curating 4 LPs and 1 founder every 45 minutes, switching, but it's open up the laptop, get to work, make intros, move the needle for our companies. I'm excited to get that going. It's actually 2 years since our summit that we did, a big kickoff summit. And, this year really felt like for where we are is move the needle for every single one of our companies. I definitely meet with my companies and then say, where do you need help? And then I go get the help. But this was, let's crowdfund that, 50 to 100 people in a room where we all just help each other together. So that's going on my role this week. What do you got on your radar for this week coming up, Fred?
There's a lot of events. I think I would just give a shout out to Social Coyote, Jonah Peak. He does the best job of curating, hey, these are the events that are happening, this upcoming week. I'm seeing things from tech to life science and consumer. Right now, community is such a big piece. Whether it's a happy hour or a panel conversation, it's deeply needed. So yeah, I recommend getting out there. And we're always sharing resources on LinkedIn and Twitter, so give us a follow there. And yeah, this is a great conversation, great to catch up, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, giving us feedback, including Michael Robertson, who is giving me feedback here. I hear you. Some of you may want the song a little shorter. All right, we'll try it. It's been a few years. Maybe some of you like to skip ahead. I hear you. But others, it's brand new too. So we'll keep it long at the end and short in the front. a little bit of, we'll try that out for some of the feedback. But thanks all, appreciate it. Make sure you're following Fred on Substack at businessofsandiego.substack.com. Follow Fresh Brew Tech on Substack as well, and share this so that we can continue to connect the people immediately to the resources, so we can keep building great businesses and a great ecosystem. Fred, thanks for joining. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Neal.
All right, everyone. Cheers.
Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we got tacos and tech is on smash. For the green guacamole. Keep accountants counting beans. Contador cuentan frijoles. Founders trying to raise some queso. La vida San Diego. School of rappy, rapping fire. Tortillas round jalapenos. In these modern times of craft beer and coffee. My coding yoga posse. Fold the body. Surfing Coronado, eating tacos El Gordo. The tacos stand in puesto, lucha libre and sombrero. Gotta shout out Tecos, Daniels by the ocean, watch the sunset. La Jolla shores, entrepreneurs trying to get funded. When San Diego Startup Week is popping in the summer. Oceanside to Tijuana, SD, be full of hustlers. From couch surfing to penthouses right on the beach. Tech leaders who believe stars are within reach. We interviewing founders who be shooting for the moon. Hashtag SD Tecos with your host, Neal Bloom. Come on! Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. You want tech and tacos, tacos and tech. You know we got it, eh? Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. Startups get the party. Startups get the party started. You want